I had what I thought was going to be a fantastic idea to be able to add a quick ditch to the driveway that we've been building, as well as to hopefully quickly build a swale through the field here and then help mark out what I need to do for a driveway around the field. The idea was to use a plow so that it would cut down into the dirt and turn that dirt over so that it would automatically create a swale, and then I could come back later with the box blade and smooth that out and then already have a slant. So we took the backhoe off the tractor and are putting the 3-point arms back onto it. That's one of the biggest frustrations about the backhoe itself. The way that they connect these now, they call it a 4-point connection, and it's pretty secure. The frames that stick out here next to the tires actually run all the way up to the front loader connection point at the front of the tractor. So it's solidly connected to the tractor itself. But it means that these are always in the way when you're doing 3-point stuff. So we're trying to see if we can get everything adjusted here. And since I've never used a plow before, this was a fair amount of experimentation, which you'll see when we get up onto the drive. I was thinking I needed to tilt that back pretty far, and it turns out that was tilted way too far back. But we'll learn that momentarily. The nice part is that it did exactly what I wanted to. The downside is, as you'll see, it didn't quite work as well as I would have liked. But that's okay. It was worth the time it took to test this. We had to stop and pick a few blackberries. That way we could enjoy our snack. And we're actually coming up on the end of blackberry season. Most of the blackberries are overripe and shriveling up now, so we got to get out and do a quick pick of whatever we want to try and save to put in the freezer or make jam or whatever. So right now we're just kind of trying to see. I came to the conclusion already that it was way too high. It wasn't going to be able to dig in. So we're adjusting where the 3-point arms are connected to the lifting cylinders. And that way this will get a lot lower. It's a little awkward to actually put this on because it's actually built to be tilted. And see there, it did a little bit better job, but it's still not digging. So I'm going to raise the back, tilt the front. And if I remember correctly, I think I actually did that one more time. I figured since that amount of tilt worked, maybe a little more would work even better. And as you can see, it works quite a bit better. So we're not actually needing this driveway built for use this summer or this winter, but I do want to make sure I don't lose it and have runoff issues. So that's why I had the thought to hurry and get this just dug in. So we'll still be able to drive the tractor up there. We'll still be able to do a little bit of things with it. But that way I won't have to worry about digging in a ditch. And so here, like I said, I'm trying to see if I can get we want the runoff to come down and kind of swerve through this field so that it'll feed our fruit trees. And it kind of sort of worked. And then the idea was to do it a second time, just slightly to the side, to make that wider. That part didn't work at all. Coming back from the other direction kind of worked. And so now what I've got is basically a big bump in the field. So I'm still going to have to come back through with the backhoe and kind of work that and get it all fixed. But then I thought, well, all right, let's go try and see if we can get the edges marked out for what I want on the road. And as you can see, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I think the ultimate problem that I ran into was that this is so bumpy out here, just full of gopher mole holes, tunnels, whatever, branches that fell down and over the years caused divots and things. I mean, this forest hasn't had anything done with it in probably close to 60 years. The previous owners used it as a horse field a long time ago, but they haven't even done that for several decades. So it's just been wild until I started to mow it, and mowing it is pretty challenging sometimes. And you can see I came through to try and kind of mark out the edges of the road, but again, I'm gonna have to come back through and use the backhoe. It was definitely worth the shot. It was worth the time it took to try and do this. And I mean, worst case scenario, now we have a very clear indicator of where the road's gonna be, which was a little bit surprising. There are more trees in the way than I thought there would be. I had thought originally we'd be able to do this without taking out too many trees to get a road to go down through there, but to be able to get a truck and a trailer down through there is going to be rather tight. So it is what it is. We'll have to take down a few more trees than I had planned, but since we'll be replacing all of the ash trees with things like maple, cedar, Oregon oak, quaky aspen, things like that. Anyway, it's not going to really change too much. It just changes a little bit of when certain areas have to be done. So, having done the experiment and played with it, it's time to take the 3-point arms back off and put the backhoe back on. And I've actually come to learn the hard way that those lifting arms need to be secured. At least the one on the left side of the screen needs to be for sure, because it can spin to adjust how long it is. And I've had several times where, well, I take it back, I had twice, where I was driving the tractor along and I would find that it had vibrated loose. Believe it or not, that was actually one of the more smooth times I've put that backhoe on. For some reason, I tend to struggle getting that lined up just right. One of the possibly most important things about heavy equipment that I have learned is that you cannot grease it too much. So as a general rule, every time I put something on, I go through and grease all of the zerks. And then I, obviously try to pay attention to the hour meter as well to make sure that I'm meeting that 10-hour requirement. So at the moment I gotta do the front loader now. Then I'll be able to come back and just double checking to make sure I didn't miss any. This particular grease that I'm using is not one that I'm actually a fan of. I bought it because it was a little bit less expensive than the other stuff, and I'm not sponsored by anybody, so no names will be mentioned here, but the other red grease that this one was apparently a knockoff of, it definitely lasts longer. This cheaper version doesn't actually stick. By the time I get 5 or 6 hours in, I can already hear some of the joints start to creak, and I have to go back through and redo that. I was tempted to start clearing the shrubs back there. I decided that I would start working on this entertaining area. This particular area is going to eventually be our yard game spot. It'll be about 35 by 35 feet, something like that. And we'll be able to play, yard games like croquet, bocce, there's a Viking game that I want to build. I can never remember the real name of it, but it's Skull and Bones. And over this particular area is kind of a nice little area. This will be surrounded in most likely cedars, because since this is in the middle of an ash area, it does get a fair amount of water. And I did find quite a few rocks, actually, as I was working my way through here. So that's always a score. What really surprised me is how gravelly this particular area is. And this area, this has actually been a fun thing to complete. We started the area last year, and I'm hoping to get it at least to the point where we can get some grass planted in this area by the time we get our rains here in a couple of weeks. So we'll keep working on that, and as always, thank you for watching, and stay safe out there. God bless you and yours.